So I'd like to just finish there and to ask if there are any questions or any comments or complaints. I once had a complaint during a Maitri guided meditation, and the person said that they were irritated and annoyed. I said to them, that didn't work for you. But it turned out the reason for that was because they used to silent meditation, so it was annoying for them to hear someone talking. But for most people it's quite helpful to a certain extent to have some talking guidance. But for that man, he was annoyed and irritated, so there we are. So, the first question, how best to not be affected by people, their actions, and live in the moment? Good. Yes, that is important for us to have that ability not to be blown around by our experiences of other people. We can get really upset and really angry and things like this. It can happen. But the best way really is if we have happiness within ourselves, if we have Maitri within ourselves, that gives us a bit of buffer or insulation against other people, because we've got that happiness within our minds. Because you find when you have Maitri, it's much harder to upset a person really, because we can tend to think, and this is always the case, it is the other person's problem. But when we react negatively, it's our problem then. And this is the big problem. That if we see, that person is just trying to, stir me up, that's their business, nothing to do with me, and therefore you don't have to take it personally. This is the big problem with most interactions with people. We take very personally what the other person says or does. We take it very personally, rather than saying, look, it's just the way they are at this moment. They're cranky, or they're just finding fault, or they're jealous, or whatever it is. So, and when you see that, it's really their problems, where they're coming from. That makes it much easier not to get involved with whatever they're trying to bring up in us, and to live in the moment. If we have Maitri, if we have this being our own best friend, very easy to be in the moment. When we're not our best friend, it's hard to be in the present moment, because we feel uncomfortable, it feels unpleasant. And there's an amazing study they did in America some years ago. It wasn't a large sample. They did it with students. This is quite interesting. And they put them in a room, and they said, this is an experiment. You just have to sit in this room for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, not difficult. No device, no books. You're just sitting in there with yourself, but there is a button on the wall, and if you press the button, you get an electric shock. And all the students who were doing this experiment tried the button, and the people who were doing the experiment said, was it unpleasant? Would you pay not to be shocked? They said, of course, we don't want to get an electric shock like that. It's really quite unpleasant. Then, after their 10 or 15 minutes, after they'd done quite a sample of this, they found that 75%, I think it was, of the men had pressed the button, they'd shocked themselves, and 25% of the women had shocked themselves too. Because, why is that? Can't sit quietly with themselves. They are not their own best friend. They listen to the thoughts are saying, you're not good enough, you've got so much to do, you're behind in your studies, etc., and so they can't sit quietly with themselves. And one of the famous French philosophers said that The problem, the basic problem, the essential problem with all human beings is we cannot sit quietly in a room on our own, just to be quietly with ourselves. We're uncomfortable to be with ourselves quite often because of the thinking, because of the negative qualities in the mind that can tend to run if we're focusing on them, if we are encouraging them. So that was a really interesting experiment, isn't it? It just shows that people prefer to be shocked, especially the men, than do just sit there with themselves and be with their own thoughts. So that's how we can live in the present moment. If the present moment is pleasant, it's much easier to stay with it. So however we can bring that pleasantness to the present moment, particularly through Maitri, there we are, okay, thank you, then that will make it easier for us to stay put, to be there, to be content, to be comfortable with our own company. So that's a really big plus. So this is how we can not be affected by people, their actions, and live in the moment. So very good. Any other questions before we finish? You can speak, yeah. No pressure, no pressure.
I'm sure Bhakti will confirm that Sri Lankans don't want to start asking questions, but when somebody just asks, it just explodes and everybody asks questions.
Actually, usually what my experience is, particularly in Melbourne, because where I am, I'm at Newbury Monastery outside Melbourne, it's an Aranya, and 90% plus of the Dayakas are Sri Lankan. But usually after we finish the Dhammasakata or talk or whatever, then they come up and ask the question. They say, oh, do you mind? I've got something I'd like to ask. But no matter. So, but I hope one of the things I'd like you to take away, if you can, is that the quality of our experience in this life depends on the quality of our minds. And we can do quality improvement or quality assurance by developing good qualities in our minds, the ones that the Lord Buddha was encouraging. Any wholesome emotion is really great for improving the experience of life, and not to just let the mind dwell on negative states of mind and get good at them. Some people are fantastic at getting angry, aren't they? Upset and all these things, or getting depressed or getting anxious because of the thinking, the thoughts that go with that, leading to feelings. And the more we repeat something, better we'll get at it. So let's repeat things, let's encourage things that bring happiness to the mind and bring good qualities to the mind. That enhance our lives here and now and our experience of life. And it means that so much will open up to us when we have these good qualities, these positive qualities in our minds, so that we increase our happiness and wisdom more and more, and we go to the source of happiness, which is within our hearts and minds. We're a bit like projectors in a cinema. I don't know if they still work like this, but still they're projecting out from this source, the projector, to the world, and that's what we're doing as well. So I'd like to thank you for coming this evening. I hope it was not too boring and too whatever. It was interesting. And I'd like to finish by thanking Niroshi Vijayasinghe for organising this, very kind of her to do it, and doing it from a genuine concern for your well-being, obviously for her children too. Yes?
So,
yeah.
Question to ask.
Yep.
if people find, can they find this happiness with from here, can they take this forward? And what would be the rising way as such? How this
to take the happiness forward. Yes, the way to take happiness forward is keep maintaining these positive qualities that I mentioned in right effort, samavayama. When we develop positive qualities, great, that's good. But if we can't keep them going, then the happiness will reduce. And usually the negative qualities, the weeds start to come up. This is what you notice if we don't meditate, the negative qualities in the mind really get strengthened. It's like, as Ajahn Nissarano says quite often, we're watering the weeds and not the flowers. The flowers are the good states of mind. But often we're watering the weeds. But at least, in a Buddhist context, we know that we're doing that. In the West, people don't realise that they can develop the mind in good qualities. They say to me, isn't that pretending? I say, no, it'll become, the more we do develop good qualities, the more it will become part of our character and our personality. It will just be natural for us to be like that. And that's the point, that it becomes natural, because these minds, these bodies too, are a conditioned phenomena. There are lots of things that are contributing, the cause and effect contributing to the minds we have. And repetition of action, speech and thought is really conditioning who we become. And it just depends on what we're focusing on. Is it negative or positive? So we're very, very lucky that we have good teaching, and we can, as it were, choose and realise we can really influence the state of the mind by focusing on the positive. And as the Lord Buddha says, when we focus on the positive, when we incline in that direction, the negative goes down, the negative reduces. If we focus and give attention to the negative, that gets bigger, and the good qualities go down. It's pretty easy, really, isn't it? But this is the way the mind works. So knowing that, we can work with it, and then live much more happy lives, more fulfilled lives, and more beneficial lives to ourselves and others as well. Because when we have these positive qualities, we can really connect with ourselves and with others. So this is important. So thank you for that question. Yeah, that's a good point, because many times we can do, say, the Maitri meditation, get a feeling of Maitri, but not then maintain it, keep it going, which is the important thing. Because if we do, then it becomes even a stronger quality that we have in mind. So, and I think all of us have probably met people with a lot of Maitri, and it's just very natural for them. They are like that. They've become like that because of the way they've developed their mind, either this lifetime or in previous lifetimes. So this is good news for us. We can influence the quality of our lives. We can avoid going down those negative pathways that lead to things like suicide and to stress, lead to depression, lead to anxiety, all those things, and incline towards happiness and good qualities in our minds. So thank you for that, and maybe I'll just finish. Thank you again, Hiroshi. Again, very good. That's for organising this out of a concern for teens, and I think you probably have your own teens, and 3 of them. That's wonderful, because it's wonderful to give support, because even though you probably don't believe this, I was once a teenager. And you probably don't believe Hiroshi was once a teenager, but it's the case. And I still have a memory of that period. It wasn't all that much fun actually at that age, but it's much more fun later actually when you have a better idea of what's going on. But even better if you have an understanding of the Buddha's teaching, and you can save yourself a lot of trouble and suffering. So that's great. And I'd also like to thank the Jayanthi Waru Sambuddhathva. He's not here, I think.
Maybe we'll get him in so we can thank him.
Oh, all right. I'll thank Member Hunter Rodrigo for organising the sound and making it hearable. And also to Bhante Metavihari for being here this evening and for encouraging me and supporting the teaching of Dhamma in English here in Colombo. So I'd also like to thank Jayanthi Waru Sambuddhathva for his help with organising this evening at very short notice. You both did a super job. And for everyone that I'm not aware of that has helped this evening, wonderful that you have. And hopefully it's a benefit to you. You take something away that is helpful in your life, and that is really a good thing, a good outcome for myself, for yourselves too, I hope. So thank you very much for this evening, and I think it's probably maybe I'll finish with a blessing. Isn't that good? Yeah, I just do one in English. So no, that's fine. That's fine, actually. So this is a Maitri blessing, really. May you abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may you maintain well-being in yourselves. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So there we are. Lovely to see you all. And see you when I see you, hopefully next year, actually, when I come. I'd like to come back every year. So, Terawan Saranai.
Sadhu 3 times out of respect for Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. That's great.